Welcome to the Deep Dive, the Theopoetics Edition. We are Dr. Aaron Waldron, founder and CEO of Corvus Cantus, a theopoetic publishing house and creation of Lost Raven Studios. What you're hearing right now is an expansion. The original Deep Dive podcast has been a space shaped and supported by AI, a place where ideas are explored, questions are sharpened, and insight is generated through emerging technology. But this edition marks a widening of that circle. Through our partnership between Corvus Cantus and the Deep Dive podcast, the Theopoetics Edition becomes a threshold space, where artificial intelligence meets sacred imagination, where technology intersects with myth, poetry, theology, and embodied reflection. Here we focus intentionally on theopoetics. We teach, we inform, we remember, we draw from Theopoetics and the publishings of Corvus Cantus, the books, the dialogues, the voices inhabiting the liminal spaces between doubt and devotion, critique and creativity. This is not systematic theology. This is not rigid dogma. This is theology felt, spoken, questioned, reimagined. In a meta-modern age, where we oscillate between irony and sincerity, fragmentation and hope, Theopoetics offers a way forward, not by resolving tension, but by inhabiting it. So whether you are a writer, a seeker, a scholar, or simply someone holding an old smelly box of inherited beliefs, this space is for you. Welcome to the Deep Dive, Theopoetics Edition. Let's begin.
I want to start today with a bit of a diagnostic question for you listening.
Oh, a diagnostic question.
Yeah, it sounds simple, but I want you to really think about it. When you look at the world around you...
Like just physically look around the room.
Right. Physically look at it. Do you just see stuff? Atoms, void, concrete, light waves hitting your retina? Or do you see something else?
That's a pretty heavy opener.
Yeah.
You're essentially asking if we see the raw data of reality or the meaning behind the data.
Exactly. Because today we are tackling a stack of sources that argue we have actually lost an entire organ of perception. We're doing a deep dive into the work of the French philosopher Henry Corbin, and specifically his book, Alone with the Alone.
Which is such a fantastic title, by the way.
It really is. And it centers on the Sufi mystic Ibn Arabī. And the core argument here is that what we call imagination isn't what we think it is at all.
No. It's not. I mean, in modern English, imaginary basically equals fake.
Yeah, totally.
Like if I say to you, oh, it's all in your imagination, I am dismissing whatever you just said. I'm saying it's not real.
It's a hallucination. Or you're just making it up.
Right. But Corbin is coming in with a sledgehammer to that whole idea.
He really is.
He argues that for mystics like Ibn Arabī, imagination, and we should probably capitalize that in our minds, capital I imagination
Capital I, right,
is actually a supersense. It's a faculty of the soul that perceives a layer of reality that is just as real, just as solid, and just as objective as the physical world.
So it's not fantasy. It's not, daydreaming while you're bored sitting at your desk at work.
Not at all. Fantasy is just your mind wandering. It's completely subjective.
Right.
Corbin calls this specific faculty the imaginatrix, or the active imagination.
Active imagination.
Yes. It is a tool. And he argues it is the absolute only tool capable of unlocking what he calls the mundus imaginalis.
The mundus imaginalis. Okay, let's map this out for a second, because the sources describe this as a specific spiritual topography.
Yeah, topography is the perfect word.
Because we aren't mapping the earth today. We are mapping the actual structure of reality. So where is this world located?
Well, think of the universe as a sandwich.
A sandwich. Okay, I'm with you.
So the bottom slice of bread is the sensory world. That's the physical stuff we touch, measure, bump into, the empirical data.
Right, the stuff science deals with.
Exactly. Now, the top slice of bread is the intellectual world. Pure abstract concepts, mathematics, logic, the realm of the philosophers.
And Western philosophy basically usually stops there, right?
Pretty much. You have matter on the bottom, you have mind on the top. Done.
Leaving a giant gap in the middle.
A huge gap. No filling in the sandwich.
Yeah.
But Ibn Arabī and the wider Sufi tradition, they step in and say, no, there is a middle filling here.
The meat of the sandwich.
Right, the alam al-mithal, or the intermediate world. This is the bridge. It represents a completely distinct third kingdom of reality.
And it's a place where, as Corbin puts it in the text, spirits take body and bodies become spiritual. That is such a sticky phrase. Spirits take body? What does that actually look like in practice?
Well, it means that pure abstract spirits, which are invisible to the physical eye, They take on a subtle body so they can actually be seen.
Subtle body, like a subtle non-physical body.
Exactly. And on the flip side, physical things lose their heaviness, their gross matter, and they become symbolic.
So they meet in the middle.
They meet in the middle. This is the zone where visions happen, where angels appear.
Oh, interesting.
It has geography, it has cities, it has history.
Yeah.
But it is made entirely of immaterial matter.
Immaterial matter. It almost sounds like a lucid dream, but one that you don't control. You just visit it.
Precisely.
Yeah.
That's a great way to put it. It is objective. You don't create it with your mind, you navigate it.
Like discovering a new continent.
Right. And Corbin's main historical critique throughout these texts is that the West, broadly speaking, just decided to delete this world entirely.
We basically threw away the map.
We did. We created this strict dualism. Either it's physically real and I can touch it, or it's mentally abstract and I can think it. We completely lost the place where those two things actually meet.
And the fascinating thing in the source material is that we can actually pinpoint the exact historical moment this divergence happened.
Oh, the meeting.
Yes. The sources highlight this massive philosophical clash in the 12th century between two absolute giants, Averroes and Ibn Arabi.
This is such a great story.
It's my favorite part of the research, honestly. It plays out like a movie scene. You have Averroes, the older man, the master of Aristotelian logic.
The absolute champion of reason in the Islamic world.
Exactly. And then you have Ibn Arabi, who is just a teenager, literally described as a beardless youth in the texts.
But he's a spiritual prodigy.
Right. And Averroes invites him to Cordova because he has heard rumors about this kid.
He's heard this kid has attained pure divine knowledge without reading a single book. He just opened up to the spiritual world.
Which has to drive a professor like Averroes crazy.
Oh, absolutely.
So the old professor wants to test the prodigy. He wants to see if the kid is the real deal or just full of it.
Right. So Averroes asks him a simple but incredibly devastating question.
He says, does the path of divine illumination lead to the same answers as my path of speculative logic?
Right. Basically, can your mystical visions do what my rigorous math and logic does?
Yeah.
Do we end up at the same truth?
And the kid's response is so cryptic. Ibn Arabi just looks at him and says, yes and no.
And then he elaborates. He says yes and no. Between the yes and the no, spirits take their flight from their matter and heads are separated from their bodies.
That is so intense.
It's terrifying if you're a rationalist.
He is essentially saying, your logic works, sure, up to a point, but then it completely breaks.
He's saying that logic is perfectly fine for the physical sensory world or the pure abstract world, but logic cannot enter the intermediate world.
The filling of the sandwich.
Right. And the text says Averroes turned pale. He literally started trembling because he realized in that exact moment that his entire worldview, built on rational proof, had a hard ceiling.
And this teenager had just flown right through it.
Exactly. Averroes is stuck in the text while Ibn Arabi is out there exploring the mundus imaginalis.
And there is a really tragic coda to this relationship later on in the sources. Years later, Averroes dies in Marrakesh.
Yeah.
And his body is brought back to Spain, and Ibn Arabi is actually there watching the funeral procession go by.
This specific image captures the whole thesis of Corbin's book.
They load Averroes' coffin onto one side of a beast of burden, a mule, but to balance the weight of the corpse, they load all of his books, his entire life's work of logic and philosophy, onto the other side.
Just a stunning visual.
The man counterbalanced by his own words.
It's striking. And Ibn Arabi looks at this happening and he says, on one side the master, on the other his works. How I wish I knew whether his hopes have been fulfilled.
Man.
Yeah.
He is asking, did the books actually save him? Did the logic actually get him to the real truth, or just to the technical definition of truth?
Exactly. It completely symbolizes the parting of ways. The West followed Averroes. We became obsessed with the text, the law, the logic, the scientific method.
We analyzed the book.
Right. But the mystic East, specifically this Iranian Sufi tradition that Corbin is writing about, they followed Ibn Arabi.
They went for the vision.
They kept the active imagination alive.
But, okay, let's play devil's advocate here for a second. Here is the problem with vision, right? If you aren't following the books, and you aren't following the rigid logic, isn't it just chaos?
That's the usual fear, yes.
Like, who is steering the ship? Usually, in Sufism, as I understand it, you have a sheikh, a human master who guides you.
Usually, yes. You absolutely need someone to check your work, so to speak.
Right.
But Ibn Arabi is a total disruptor. He belongs to this very rare category of mystics called the Oasis.
Oasis.
Yes. These are mystics who do not have a human teacher at all. They are guided directly by the spiritual world itself.
Cutting out the middleman.
Completely. And his specific guide is this incredible figure known as Khidr.
Khidr, the verdant one.
The green man. Khidr is a fascinating anomaly in Islamic theology. He appears in the Quran as the figure who actually teaches Moses.
Which is wild because Moses is a massive heavyweight. He is the lawgiver.
Right, but Khidr knows things Moses doesn't know.
Moses has the strict rule book, but Khidr has the deep insight.
Exactly. Khidr represents the inner esoteric truth that completely transcends the outer exoteric law. So when Ibn Arabi says he is a disciple of Khidr, he is claiming a vertical authority.
Vertical meaning straight up to heaven.
Right. He doesn't need a certificate from a university or a formal blessing from a bishop or a sheikh. He has gone directly to the source.
There's an actual ritual mentioned in the notes regarding this, the investiture of the mantle. It happened in a garden in Mosul.
The kirka. It is a symbolic cloak.
But it's not like receiving a diploma?
No, not at all. The diploma just says you learn the material. Wearing Khidr's mantle means you have actually identified your state of being with his state of being.
You've become like him.
You have drunk from the spring of life. It is the ultimate declaration of spiritual independence. You are, as the book title says, alone with the alone.
And this connects right back to the active imagination we were talking about earlier, right? Because Khidr isn't a physical guy walking around the streets of Mosul.
Right, you don't just bump into him at the local market.
You meet him in the intermediate world.
Exactly. Khidr is the guide of the active imagination. He is the one who shows you how to navigate that middle layer of reality.
So if you don't have that organ of perception working, if your active imagination is broken...
then you can't ever meet Khidr. You're just stuck with Moses and the rigid law.
Okay, so we have the landscape, which is the intermediate world. We have the guide, Khidr. Now we need the method. How does one actually practice this?
Right.
The text throws around a very specific term for this, ta'wil.
Ta'wil, which is often translated in academic circles as spiritual hermeneutics.
Which is a great way to put all of our listeners straight to sleep.
It really is. It sounds like terrible homework.
Right. But what does it actually mean?
The literal meaning is much more action-oriented. It means to carry back.
To carry back.
It means taking something you see in the physical world and carrying it back to its spiritual origin in the intermediate world.
So it is essentially the exact opposite of taking things literally.
Precisely. The literalist looks at a text or a physical object and just stops at the surface. That's all there is.
But the mystic uses ta'wil to penetrate that surface.
Yes. And the classic example Corbin uses in the sources is the burning bush.
Oh, this is a great example. So to a scientist or a strict literalist, the burning bush is just brushwood on fire.
Right. It's a chemical reaction, rapid oxidation, combustion.
But to the active imagination, using ta'wil, it is a theophany.
Theophany. That is another massive key term here. Tajalli in Arabic.
Meaning God revealing himself through a physical form.
Right. The fire isn't just fire. It is a mask for the divine presence.
But you're seeing both, right?
Exactly. The active imagination allows you to see the mask and the face behind it simultaneously.
And this gets incredibly provocative because Ibn Arabi doesn't just apply this ta'wil method to burning bushes or rocks. He applies it to people.
Oh, yeah.
We have to talk about Sophia.
We do. This is where people usually get very uncomfortable with his work because it blurs the line between human romance and divine worship.
So the story goes, in Mecca, Ibn Arabi meets this young Iranian girl named Nizam, but he calls her Sophia.
And she is described as beautiful, brilliant, deeply cultured.
And Ibn Arabi starts writing these incredibly intense love poems to her.
Which, if you're just looking on the surface, looks like a standard, slightly scandalous romance. He's an older mystic falling for a young girl.
But we have to apply ta'wil.
Right. Apply the method. He's just falling for a girl. Through his active imagination, he's seeing Sophia, eternal wisdom, actually manifesting through her physical form.
He treats her human beauty as a literal theophany.
Yes.
So the big question is he loving the human girl or is he loving God?
And the answer for Ibn Arabi is simply yes.
You can't separate them.
You can't. This is the core creed of what they call the fidèles d'amour, the faithful of love.
The faithful of love.
They believe that human love is the necessary initiation into divine love.
Wow.
You literally cannot love the invisible God effectively unless you have first learned to recognize his beauty in visible physical forms.
But doesn't that cross the line into idolatry for mainstream religion?
That's the accusation, sure. But Ibn Arabi would say idolatry is when you think the thing itself is God, when you worship the actual stone statue.
Right.
Ta'wil is when you see God through the thing. It's like light passing through a stained glass window.
Oh, that's a perfect analogy.
You aren't worshiping the glass itself, you're worshiping the light.
Yeah.
But you absolutely need the glass to be able to see the brilliant colors.
The girl, Sophia, is the window.
She's the window.
This changes the entire dynamic of what religion even is, because if God is revealing himself through forms, through people, through nature, through art, then prayer isn't just sending a text message to a distant CEO up in the sky.
No, not at all. It becomes an active, intimate relationship. And Corbin uses a really beautiful metaphor here, borrowed from the ancient philosopher Proclus.
The heliotrope.
The heliotrope, the sunflower.
A flower that physically turns to face the sun as it moves across the sky.
Right. Now, ask a modern biologist why it turns, and they'll say photosynthesis.
Mechanics. Auxins moving around in the stem of the plant.
Pure mechanics. But the mystic looks at that and says, sympathy.
Sympathy.
There is a magnetic, sympathetic bond between the flower and the sun. They belong to the same cosmic family.
So you're saying the flower turns because it loves the sun?
Effectively, yes. Its physical movement is its prayer.
That's beautiful.
But here is the massive theological bombshell that Corbin drops based on this. And honestly, it is the hardest part of this entire philosophy to grasp.
Okay, lay it on me.
The prayer is reciprocal.
Reciprocal.
The text literally says, God prays for us so that we may pray to him.
Wait, back up a second. That sounds completely backward. We pray to God. God doesn't pray to us.
Well, think about the sunflower again. The sun needs the flower to be the sun.
What do you mean?
Without the flower to actually receive the light, to react to it, the sun is just a lonely, isolated ball of fusion in the dark void. It needs a witness.
It needs something to illuminate.
Yes. So we are partners.
You are necessary partners.
This is the concept of unio sympathetica, sympathetic union. We don't pray to the abstract, generic God of the universe.
Because that concept is just too big, too empty.
Exactly. We pray to the specific Lord the Rab that corresponds to our specific individual soul.
Oh, wow. That is why the famous maxim in the text is, he who knows himself knows his Lord.
Exactly. Yourself, your deep inner being, is the exact vessel for a specific aspect of the divine.
So if you know who you really are, you know which face of God you were meant to look at.
It is entirely personal. It is intimate. It's a romance. It's not a courtroom. And this entire relationship relies completely on the active imagination.
How so? Connect that back for me.
Because without imagination, you just look and see a giant star and a small green plant. You just see the mechanics.
The literal surface.
Right. It takes the active imagination to perceive the relationship, to see the sympathy, the invisible bond that connects the two. Imagination is the actual medium where that prayer happens.
That connects everything we've talked about today. The mule carrying the books, the burning bush, the girl in Mecca.
Yes.
It is all about whether you are dealing with a dead structure or a living relationship.
And that brings us directly to the final haunting image in the source material.
The empty tomb.
The empty tomb.
It really is a striking way to end the analysis.
It is. Corbin warns us against worshiping what he calls the God of dogma.
The God of dogma.
If you just follow the rigid rules, the literal text, the pure historical facts, you are essentially standing guard over a tomb.
You're protecting a structure.
But there is a corpse inside.
Or maybe nothing at all.
Exactly. But the God of theophany, the God of Ibn Arabi, is never in the tomb.
The tomb is empty because the spirit has already risen.
It's out there. It's in the mundus imaginalis. It is in the face of the person you love. It's in the burning bush.
So the greatest tragedy, really, is to spend your entire life guarding the tomb and missing the resurrection happening right behind you.
That is the ultimate danger of living in the flat world.
The sandwich with no middle.
Right. If you reject the active imagination, if you reject the intermediate world, you are stuck with the corpse of matter.
You are stuck with the mule carrying the books, but the master is long gone.
So true.
So that brings us right back to where we started, the organ of perception. We began by asking if you just see atoms and void when you look around.
And hopefully now you see that imagination isn't about making things up.
It's about waking up.
It is about tuning that specific organ to see the angel in the details. It's about realizing that reality has way more floors than just the ground floor and the roof.
So here is your provocation for the day. Next time you see something beautiful, a landscape, a person, even just a sudden moment of clarity, ask yourself,
am I seeing the thing or am I seeing through it?
Are you balancing the books on the mule or are you taking flight?
Go find your own east.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. We will see you in the intermediate world.